to get to hang out with you for, the next hour. Like, it's like such a privilege. You're somebody who is like such a mentor and such like a beacon of hope and light in this industry. And I love that it says, your passion is for people, encouraging them to grow, watching them become successful. And you really are a cheerleader. You can see that. For those that don't know you, Nina, you're on Instagram. You're posting about people. You're sharing your knowledge. You just really just want the best for everybody. I think that's awesome. If we go back to 1996, which is where you began your career as a stylist, I think that's so crazy, because just after a few years, you were a salon manager and then a district manager for a chain of 8 salons in Pennsylvania. They were so excited with you and just loved you so much that they made you part owner and manager into Florida. So you moved to West Palm Beach, where you managed 55 employees and had 8 direct reports. Underneath your leadership, you took the chain to a 20% profit in the very first year for all 8 stores. So let's stop right there, because everybody always wants to talk about profit, and that's what I love about you, because you have that track record of profitability, of growth. And a lot of times, people just put it out there as a number. Oh, I want to do 5% growth. I want to have 5% net profit. But they really don't understand the strategy or the plan or even what that looks like. And that's what I love about you and all your years of experience, is that you have that. So let's kind of talk. I mean, you didn't just do it for one, you did it for 8 stores. So it's not just one salon, you took all of them. So let's kind of talk through that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a ride. So actually the salons that we had, the 8 salons, those were actually in Pennsylvania. I ended up working with incredible mentors. So now we're going on, I met them when I was 19. So about 22, 23 years, they have been my mentors. One has just since recently passed, just about a month or 2 ago. But Robin is still my mentor, still lives in Palm Beach. But they decided, so they owned a chain of salons in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, over 200 salons. And I spent 8 years with them. And so I learned everything I know about this business through them. And, that chain was in Pennsylvania. That's when I was working with Robin at that time. And I had 8 salons, 55 employees, 8 direct reports. And then they sold those businesses. And that's when we moved to West Palm Beach and opened up 5 salons in 1 year. Wow. So, and I moved right at the 1-year mark, and only because I was with them for so long, I just felt like I needed to do my own thing. I wanted to open up my own salon, and kind of felt like I was just in the shadow a little bit. I needed to kind of spread my wings. So I moved back to Pennsylvania. That's when I opened up my own salon. And that was called Anthony Ashley. And I owned that for 11 years. That was a commission salon. And it was rough. I mean, all of this stuff I've had some hard learning lessons and made a lot of mistakes, but I really accredit it to them and their mentorship. And they're leading me and guiding me to really how to understand the business, and also just really how to care for people. I mean, obviously I get that from my mom too, just being a caring, kind human, but also in business, just kind of giving back. And, I believe when you give back and you give in your community, things grow when you give and you open your heart up. So that's kind of the way that I lead. And that's kind of the way I led my team when I had my salon.
I love that. I think that says a lot about who you are. And you mentioned this quite a bit when you talk on your podcast, on your Instagram lives. You talk about mentors and how important they are. So you obviously discovered that early on, but what is something that you particularly look for in mentors, and what advice would you give to those that are looking for mentors?
So if you're looking for a mentor, I always have, and still after all these years, have things running through my mind that my mentors said to me. And they always said, look for someone and spend time with people who you aspire to be. So a mentor would be someone that you look up to, and someone that you admire, and someone that you really, kind of want to be like. And when I met Robin, she changed my whole world. I mean, she changed the thought process of life, and the way that I grew up and the way that they lived was so completely different. So it opened my mind. So I think it's finding someone that shows you that there are more possibilities in life than you think. Pushing you outside of your comfort zone, challenging you, holding you accountable. but also has the same mentality and the caring, kind spirit that you are kind of looking for, that really can take you under their wing and say, you're doing great at this, but we need to work on this. You know, I think maybe this is the direction that, so it's kind of like them guiding you in a sense. And really someone that you can rely on and trust, that you know, no matter what, they always have your back. And they're really looking to pull the best out of you. I mean, and I think for me, that was always my goal when I had my team. You know, my why in owning my salon was my team. I showed up for them every single day, you know, and of course the clients too, but the team comes first, because the team will treat the guests the way that you treat them, you know? So I always showed up to really pull out the fullest potential in my team and make sure that they were able to live their dreams and their goals working in my salon. So finding someone that really, I think you just have to care about people. You have to understand the business, but you have to find people who care about you, not just care about the business, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So how, you know, you talked about team, and you had a team of 55 with 8 directs. I mean, that's a lot of people. That's a big team. Mm-hmm. How did you, you know, keep them attracted to your business and attracted to you and believing in you and your vision, and keep them inspired? Because I think we find that that's kind of the challenge sometimes, especially with everything that's going on, is to, you know, keep our team inspired and keep them motivated and keep pushing them forward. So how was that for you?
So because that was Robin's business, I, as the leader of that business, had to buy into their vision. I say Robin and Ray, but her vision. I had to buy into her vision of her brand. And I had to literally eat, sleep, and breathe her brand. And so in order for me to go out into the world of the 8 salons, which I traveled in every day, I had to eat, sleep, and breathe and be that brand, which a lot of it really was, you know, she put a lot of that on me to be that leader and to make choices and decisions. So there was a lot of cleaning house in the beginning. You know, when I came in, because I would say I'm a pretty structured and regimented leader, but I also lead from a space of kindness. So I kind of run that balance, but you know, you have to show up and I'll show up. You know, we have to show up and kind of meet halfway. So I was a little tough in the beginning. But I think over time, they saw that I truly cared for them, and we would work on the business together. You know, it was like, how can we do this together? Not just like, hey, you go do this and I'm going to sit in the back room while you do it. Like, if you need help cleaning the bathroom, I'm going to help you. If you need, you know, help, you know, doing a highlight, I'm going to stand there with you. Like, cause I was working behind the chair before then. Like, I stopped working behind the chair when I was running all of those salons. There's no way I could do both. But I had that experience. So for that, it was her brand. But when I owned my own salon, it was me and it was my brand, and it was everything that I spoke to. I think it could, I mean, honestly, it's just, you have to understand who you are as a person. You have to understand what your brand message is and what your promise is to your guests. You truly just have to understand the expectation and always set the standard for your business where it makes you happy, where you're fulfilling your dreams and goals, and then you hire a team to rise up to it. What I see a lot happen, and I did this in the beginning too, because I was insecure as a new owner, we set the standard, but when we can't find the people, we lower the standard to meet the people, right? And so I learned very quickly, that just doesn't work. So you have to stay solid in who you are. And yes, does it take time to build a team and find those people that will rise to your standard? Absolutely. But the standard starts with you. You have to lead and set the tone in every single way. So it was me showing up every day. It was me working 5-6 days a week. It was me coming in early, staying late. And I created that culture for my team. They hustled and they grinded it out because that's just what I did. And they like to make money, and they did very, very well. So I think it's staying true to yourself and understanding what your non-negotiables are, you know, not moving and saying, okay, well, this is where I am, but I'll kind of meet you down here. And then you kind of end up lowering the standard of your business, and then it's no longer yours. Now it's the team's vision, not your vision. You know, so I think you kind of have to stay on track a little bit with that, with the leadership. And that just comes from experience and consistency and just showing up and setting the tone every day.
I love that. You mentioned non-negotiables. So if, as
Mhm.
you know, we have leaders on here that are just starting their journey, or maybe they just opened their salon. When you first started, or even towards the end of, before you got rid of your salons, what were some of those most successful non-negotiables for you? What were those top 5 things that no matter what comes this way, they are etched in stone? We are going to ride or die with them. They're not changing.
So they changed over time, but as I got into my brand and understanding who I was and what my expectations were, I mean, for me, it was, I just wanted to work with good, kind humans. I could train them to cut hair. I can train them to do a highlight. I can train them to do a men's haircut. I can't train them to be good, kind people. So I really looked for people that were honest. I mean, it was part of my brand, just honesty, integrity, hard work, hardworking, that they would want to come in early and stay late and not put, it was tough in my business. I had high expectations. If you didn't put the business first for your first 5 years, that this may not be the brand for you. Social media expectations. If you're not active on social media, or you're not willing to learn how, this may not be the brand for you. So I think those things, being active on social media was a big thing because it meant networking. Networking was a huge part of my brand. We actually they had to go to one networking event every month that was out of the salon. We were part of the Chamber of Commerce. So those were things that I really looked for toward the latter part, year 5, year 6. It was like social media. So they wanted to be active. They wanted to be involved in the community, being honest, obviously having integrity, hardworking, responsible. And I wanted them to be accountable. I wanted people to be accountable for their actions and say, you know what, I screwed up. I screwed up Judy's hair, and you know what, it is what it is, and it's okay. We're going to work through it. We're going to fix it together. So those would probably be my top 5. I'm trying to think if there's any more. I mean, I really just want to, it's so crazy. And I say this and people think I'm funny, but as I started to really pinpoint my brand, we did a lot of community work. We did a lot of giving back. We held charity events in my salon 3-4 times a year. And it was very important for me to have people in my salon that really wanted to give back and loved kids and animals, especially dogs, because those were pretty much the charities that we did. So, sometimes dogs would come into the salon, and that was a big thing. We're big animal lovers. Like, that really became part of our brand. And if you were not that you need to have 5 dogs, but you need to have a genuine care and love for animals, because they may be coming into the salon and we may be running, events that was really important to us, spending time with pediatric cancer. Children would come in, we would do their hair and makeup for free. So that really played into it a lot as we moved forward. But again, it just comes from being a compassionate, kind soul, like wanting to give and serve. Service, that would be another one too. Like a servant, we had a servant brand. We did whatever we could do to serve our team, but I also did whatever I could to serve the guests. I did whatever I could to serve the team, and they did whatever they could to serve the guests. And so I think having a servant leadership and a servant's heart is very important in this business too, because we work with, it's a very high emotion, high touch environment. And so I think those would probably 5 or 6. Those would be my tops.
I love that. And one of the things that you talked about was accountability and having that with them. So what did that look like? Was that weekly one-on-ones, monthly? How did you hold your team accountable? And when did you know that it was time to maybe part ways? Because I think sometimes we hold on to them because maybe they're a high producer, maybe, they just rock at retail, but we know somewhere in the back of our mind that we're going to have that conversation. So let's kind of walk through what that accountability looked like for your team, how you held them to your non-negotiables, and what your meetings looked like. And ultimately, when you had that 1 or 2 that just kind of wore their welcome out.
Great question. I love this question. So yes, we did monthly one-on-one coaching sessions for an hour, each individual with the team, and they were set up the same day and time every month. I highly suggest that. And in those coaching sessions, it was talking about numbers. So you'd have all of their numbers and you can compare month over month and then month over year. which is very important, talk about their goals, but also it was a very personal session too. How are you doing? How are you doing? What's going on in your life? Is there anything you want to talk about? Get off your chest, things that you see in the salon that we can improve upon. Asking for feedback is very important in one-on-one coaching sessions. So we did that. We also had team meetings every single month, and making them fun and light, and then hitting the housekeeping items, of course, is important, and then ending light. Giving them an action. I always believe in giving people an action to leave with when they leave a coaching session or a team meeting is important. And then checking in with them every week, 10 minutes. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? I know you're working on pre-booking. Let's take a look at it and see where you are. Are you feeling more comfortable? So you're constantly coaching and nurturing the team. That was part of the accountability. Having difficult conversations, you know, for the new leaders that are on here is you've got to get used to having difficult conversations, because one thing I learned is that the longer you let the small things go, the bigger they become. So if you have standards in your business, let's just say something small, like the way that your stylists are greeting new guests. For me, that was a big deal. We had a whole process wrapped around the greeting. And I had team members that were new that just needed to learn and get a little bit of coaching on that. And if I saw something they didn't like, I would immediately, when we had time that day, pull them in the office to kind of talk to them about it. So I recommend not waiting. Like if you see something and you don't like it, it doesn't mean you're nagging. It just means that you're coaching them and you're teaching them how to live and work in your brand. And if you don't do it, they're going to be off to their own courses, and then things end up falling to the wayside. So I think those are really important things to kind of stay on top of. And then letting go of people. I had someone stay too long. It was my fault. Caused a lot of problem in my business. She was the highest earner that I had. And I relate to this so much because there are a lot of salon owners that have high earners and they keep them, because what we do is this, right? We put the blinders on and we say, oh, she's bringing us so much income. And then we start making excuses for the behavior, right? Because I lived it. And so what happens though over time is that you realize that they become almost poison to the business. So the sooner you can get someone out that doesn't buy in and believe in your brand anymore, because that's what happens when, even if they're a high earner, if they're toxic, they will start to poison the salon. And the longer you let that go on, the more poison you have in your business. So think of it this way. Everything that you work so hard for, those non-negotiables, that standard, that brand, that reputation, the longer you let someone there, the more that chips away at what you've worked so hard at. So if you think of it that way, it's kind of like, I really need to do this and have that tough conversation. Letting people go is never easy. There is a process for it. You know, obviously in different states, you know, some states are at will, some are not. You have to abide by and be compliant. But writing up, coaching, you know, having write-ups and having coaching sessions wrapped around that to see if they can improve. But I say 3 strikes, you're out. You know, if you have 3 coaching sessions with someone and you're not seeing upward progress, they may not be a fit for your brand, you know, and that's okay. And parting ways, I want you guys to understand too, that parting ways with someone can actually be a very, very lucrative decision for your business, because that toxicity in your business could be killing your numbers and your profit margin and your top line sales. I have found in my experience, when we remove that, is it scary? Yes. Will you be upset and maybe be a little upset and sad for a while? Yep. And you've got to feel that. But the resilient side of your leadership has to kick in, and you've got to get back on the horse. You have other team members that are relying on you. And so I found when you remove that energy, it's like fresh. Clients come in, they feel lighter. The stylists come in, they feel lighter, and the business starts to grow. And so I've only had one situation in my 11 years where I felt like I left someone there too long and it was very toxic. There were other situations where I may have let someone wear their welcome, but it wasn't like a toxic situation. It was kind of just like a run of the mill, just kind of coasting situation. But the toxic ones, you have to be on guard all the time and really take action. Sitting on it won't make it go away. It will actually allow your team to become more resentful to you and your leadership, and then they lose trust in you. So they're relying on you to make these decisions, and it's hard. It really, really is hard. But I can tell you this, silver lining, as you start to do this, and not that you're going to go on a firing spree, that's not what I'm saying, but in my years, you know, my first one was horrible. The second one was like, and the third one, you're like, boom, I know what I'm doing. I'm sticking to my standard in my business. I'm so sorry. You're just not a fit for our business and brand. Next day, we're back at it. You know, you kind of get to a point where you're like, you become so strong in yourself and what you have to offer. And you also know that you have other stylists, you know, they were my kids in essence. I had other kids that were needing me and I didn't want to disappoint them. So there's a lot of ways to look at it, but you know, they always say to hire slow and fire quick. And I stand by that. I think it's important to live by that.
I love that. You talked about trust and how important trust is in your leader. And they say it's, you know, it takes forever to earn trust, but only seconds to destroy that. And I think, you know, obviously holding on to somebody who's toxic and poisoning the salon is definitely a way to destroy trust. How do you recognize that somebody's that real toxic person and not just run of the mill? Because I think sometimes they're very good, especially to the owners and leaders on this call. It's almost like they're very fake to our face, and we don't really necessarily know. And we don't, you know, the one-on-ones, it's never digging for information, but how do you build that safety enough where the team can say, Nina, this person has got to go? Like, where does that come in?
That's really good question. And I think that the trust that you build individually is key. So in those one-on-one coaching sessions, that's why we don't just make it about numbers. We make it about caring about them as humans. Like, how can we set you up to buy your dream home? How do we get you out of debt? How do we allow you to make the money that you need to buy a vacation home if you want to, or put college money away? So you're spending more time building them as people too. And when they start to trust you, is that you follow through and do everything that you promised. That's number one in building trust. So follow through is key. And that they can get a sense that you really have their best interest at heart. So a lot of trust is not sharing information with each other. I take that to, like, if you tell me something, I will take it to my grave. That's one thing that I know I'm really good at, is keeping secrets. And so they would know that as well, because they would slowly start to tell me things about their personal life or things in the salon. And they knew that I would never say anything because nothing was ever said. And so when you start to build that over time, that really, really helps in terms of them coming to you to tell you what's going on in the salon. And here are tips and ways that you can handle that, because it does get tricky when, you know, say stylist Kelly comes to you and tells you something about stylist Jenny. You can't go to Jenny and say, well, Kelly told me that you're not taking the trip. Like, you can't. So you have to get clever in ways. And I felt that I became really good at that, because it was making more general statements or making statements like, I noticed that on the nights that we're together, that you're a little slow to take out the trash, or you're maybe, you know, you kind of have to make it more about you. Or in general, I think we're having problems here with, you know, cleaning up and doing the duty list at night, you know, in general. Or you can say, it's been brought to my attention. So if you have a team of like 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, the brought to my attention is easier, because now you don't know who's saying. And I've done that before. It's been brought to my attention that there are some issues with you doing XYZ. I've noticed it myself a little bit, but now this validates it. So let's kind of talk about it. You have to know that you can't talk about other people's problems to your team, the smallest or the biggest thing. And then over time, it's the time that's going to build trust. The follow through, the consistency, and the time will build trust, so they can come to you and say, hey, Kelly is talking about you when you're not here, and she's saying horrible things about you, and I'm not the only one that heard about it, right? They're going to be, and I've had that in my salon, unfortunately, with the person that I had to let go, that was the biggest earner. You know, I've had then my stylist come to me because it was making them uncomfortable. So it showed that they were loyal to me. It was hurtful. It was really hard. It was probably one of the lowest times in my career going through that, but it taught me a lot. It made me stronger, and the business was able to thrive after that. So trust yourself first, you know, trust your decision-making, and trust your brand, and trust who you are. That will allow you to even better build trust with, you know, your team individually.
It goes back to, you've mentioned it a couple times, servant leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I think by being, that servant leader that really builds and grows trust. So over your years in this industry, how have you grown your servant leadership?
So I think it really is thinking of others first. When you're a true leader, and I'm a big Simon Sinek fan, so if you guys haven't listened to Simon Sinek yet, please check him out. He really is all about servant leadership, and he has a couple really great books. But as a true leader and as a servant leader, you eat last, you get paid last, you are there the longest, you are there to kind of, I always say, lead from the back. So when you lead from the back, you can see what's going on in front of you, so you can help guide and steer. And it's really coming from a place of, I care about you as a human. I want you to do well in life, not just in business. I mean, not just here in the salon, in business. And really spending time to invest in them that way. So it is helping them through difficult situations at home, knowing they could come in your office and knock any time and that you're going to sit and listen to them. It really is planning a growth strategy for them so they know how they're going to grow in your business. It's all laid out in a level system. It really is about offering benefits that they may not be able to receive other places, because they see that the money that you're bringing in for your business is also going back to them. It could be health benefits. It could be education allowances. It could be vacation pay. It could be IRAs. There's so many things. And I think that it is just really putting them first. I believe when you put the team first, you still keep your standards, obviously, but when you put the team first, it allows them to want to work harder for you. You still have to show up as a leader. You still have to clean the bathroom, scrub the floor, do your duties, do all of the things, handle difficult clients, work behind the chair, but in serving them in a way that it's authentic. It has to be authentic and come from a good place. Stylists don't want to feel like a number. They want to be a part of something that's bigger than them. And that's where the culture and the brand and the leadership comes in, because when they feel nurtured and secure, people want to feel secure, especially now. They need security. And you're almost like their home away from home. And a lot of stylists in our industry need a safe environment to come to, because sometimes they don't have that environment at home. So it's creating that kind of space where it's nurturing and loving and caring, but also accountability. So like, you got to know, I mean, my team really knew that, hey, they could come to me about anything, but they also knew if they didn't hit their numbers and they started to come in late, they'd be in my office immediately. My business came first, but I also cared for them as humans. So it's a real hard, I mean, it's such a hard line to walk. I think you have to find your own rhythm. But when you start to run your business with the numbers first, the servant leadership goes out the window, and the stylist can see that. If you lead with true leadership in a servant's heart, and you have systems and you have a plan and you have a growth strategy, the numbers will come, And so it's kind of, it's a different way of thinking. Not everybody, servant leadership may not be for everyone, but in our industry, especially because we serve clients, we have to remember that we have to serve our team, because like I said in the beginning, the way you serve your team is the way your team will serve your guests. So kind of just food for thought on that, and maybe some ways to just implement some different things that are more servant style to your team.
I love that. And something that you brought up as far as servant style was the benefits that you can offer and level systems. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to kind of talk a little bit about, the level systems and benefits, because you've obviously been around very successful salons, and a lot of salons struggle with, how do you compensate your team? What does that look like? How much do you pay the front desk? Is it a sliding scale? And benefits, a lot of times salons aren't profitable enough to offer benefits. So what are some best practices that you can list off for that?
Sure. So I think number one, having a growth strategy, especially with stylists that are coming out of school now, is key. And a growth strategy is basically a level system, and it's tiered, typically levels 1 through 5. That's standard. We did 4, and a lot of salons I work with do 4 because they're just smaller salons. If you have 5, 6 stylists, you could do a level 4 level sheet. But it is really building in accountability to the growth. So each level has its own goals for the week: service sales, RTS percentage, pre-booking percentage, retention, your guests per week that you're seeing, your average ticket. So each level, and it's created and customized for your business because it's based off of revenue and average ticket. So it has to be created for you because every salon's different. But in a level 1, if they have to hit these key benchmarks every single week, if they do that for 3 months consistently, they move up to a level 2, which means they get an increase in commission and also a price increase, which means more money. So it gives them something very tangible and clear to work toward, and there's no gray area. So level systems in terms of compensation, always very different, but we live typically right now in level 1s anywhere between a 38% commission and a 42% commission. I believe personally that paying less than 40% is a little tough in my opinion. So I would recommend starting someone at a 40% as a level 1. That would mean an assistant transitioning from a training assistant to working on the floor 1 or 2 days a week. That's typically where we start a level 1. And then they would go up from there. So they always know that if they do this consistently, they're going to get a raise and a price increase. And then we cap it off. The biggest question that I get is, can my business make money paying 50% commission? And here's my answer for this. It depends on your rent. It depends on your expenses, because can a business survive off of 50%? Absolutely. If it has an 8% rent based on its sales, top line sales. If not, no, you can't afford to pay 50% commission. Do I recommend you do a 50%, commission right now? If your business can afford it, right? Sure, if you can. 50% is the top of the top. I've been doing a lot of level systems lately, and I've done a ton during COVID, a ton. We're capping them more at 45%, 47% commission. But the benefits that they get in capping at 45 is that, so a level 4 would be 45% commission. They get increases on their prices every year, year and a half or so. So they're still getting increases, which is going to bring them more money. But the benefit that we wrap into that compensation package is that they actually get an assistant, their own assistant, that will work with them 1 or 2 days a week. So now, and then they have goals to hit that. So if they start hitting XYZ goals, then they can get an assistant 3 or 4 days a week. So there are more ways for you to make money without overextending yourself and capping at 50% commission. You have to think long-term. When I started my salon, I was doing 50% commission. That's because I didn't think my salon would grow as big as it did. And then I started to hire new stylists coming in that were, seasoned still 4, 5, 6, 7 years, but they would start at 45% commission. Then they had to work their way up. I started doing bonuses. When my salon was smaller, I had bonuses that they could hit if they were on like a sliding scale. Then I'm like, oh my God, I'm paying out $1,000 in bonuses every single month. Like, this is out of hand, and it wasn't tied to retention. So they were getting clients in, but they weren't keeping them. So I had to restructure that. So when you're doing goals and setting these things, you want to think longer term. So if you're a smaller salon right now, maybe you only have a stylist or 2, your goal may be to grow into 5, 6, 7 stylists, which is what I did. So you have to structure your plans and your benefits to accommodate that, so you don't eat up all your profit, in the interim. But the level system is key. It holds them accountable, and they know exactly what they have to do. So there's no, like, Kelly, you didn't hit this, you're not moving, like, what's the problem? Do you know what I mean? But you're still coaching, you're still nurturing, you're still guiding them. If they're having a problem with pre-booking, you're not going to be like, oh, Kelly, you didn't hit your pre-booking again, still on a level 2. You're like, no, you're having a problem with pre-booking. Let's get you to that level 3. Let's have some role playing go on here and see what the problem is here, so we can get you to that level 3, because the more money you make, the more money the business makes. Mm-hmm. So it really is a team effort.
You said something interesting. You talked about restructuring. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that we have some listeners today that are, believe it or not, it's still crazy to hear some people are still paying 65% in commission. How would be the best way to restructure that? Because it creates almost that real negative vibe when you have people that are at that top because maybe they bought a salon and didn't know. Right. And that's just what they were grandfathered in, and do you recommend restructuring them and throwing in bonuses, or would you say let's just start the new stylists at that? Like, where's that happy medium?
That's a really good chat, because I truly believe that you can't take anything away from someone that they already have, unless their performance is not maintaining. So with the level system, if you have someone that slides up to a level 4, and then for 3 months in a row, they haven't hit any of their benchmarks, it could be a thing that they slide back into a level 3. But they have to know that this is happening. Like, you can't, throw them into a level system and then tell them 7 months into it, like, by the way, if you don't maintain this, you're going to be sliding back. That's all part of teaching and training them how the level system works. Some people slide into things sometimes, like if they have problems at home or whatever, like they kind of start to slide back a little bit at the salon. So that just has to do with a lot of coaching. I haven't had to have anyone slide backwards. Most of the time, I don't keep them. In that case, if I see it's happening that significantly and I'm coaching them, there's no progress, they just may not be able to keep up with the standard of the business. But I do recommend not going in and saying, in 2 weeks, you're going to go from 65% commission to 50% commission, because you will lose all of your team members. But do they have goals tied to that 65%? If they're at 65% commission and they're not bringing in, like if you're looking at a level system and they're not bringing in top tier, and you have people that are at 50% commission bringing in more revenue than them, then we need to kind of look at restructuring that and putting them on almost like a 3-month or a 90-day action plan, where it's like, okay, guys, listen, you're at 65% commission. You're the top, you're making the most commission here, but your numbers, your retention rate, your pre-booking is the worst. So let's look at how we're going to make a happy medium here, and where you're going to be. And I'm going to put you on a 90-day action plan, and we're going to write out all your goals and your key benchmarks on what you need to hit. And then we'll revisit that. Now with the 90-day action plan, you have to check in with them every week, 10 minutes, 15. And then every month you're still having a coaching session. However, though, if you are in a situation where you're paying 55, 60% commission, I recommend structuring a level system that starts the new people at a 40% right assistant program into level 1, and then working them up to a 45 or a 50. So now the new people coming in aren't expecting to get 50% commission unless you hire someone that is 15 years in, they have a full book of people, and that that's going to be a great transition and you can afford it. It's all about running the numbers. Before you hire someone, you have to run the numbers to make sure that you can afford them. And a lot of times people say they have a full book of people. You can't guarantee that those people are going to come. But don't let people talk you into, and I hear this a lot happening, well, I can't, if I don't get paid 60% commission, I'm not working there. And my response is, you can't work here because I'm not paying 60% commission. You know what I'm saying? But that's where we start to lower the standard, because we start operating from a space of fear. Oh my God, I can't find anybody. What am I going to do? Oh, I'll just pay her 60% commission. They have the upper hand then. So you always want to make sure that the level system really nixes all of this, because they can't fake it. Like the numbers don't lie. Either you're hitting all of your KPIs or you're not, So I think 2 things happen. Don't take away from what people have, but implement goals and benchmarks for them. And then on the new side, make sure that you structure it where it's starting them lower and makes more sense for your business, so your business can profit.
I love that. And if you have somebody that's setting up the level system, what are some benchmarks that they should throw in there just for some key starting points?
In terms of like numbers, or are you saying like the actual benchmarks themselves, like pre-booking? Like I can give some averages and things.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect.
Sure. So service sales obviously is number 1. And I can tell you from doing a million of these over the past couple of years, the average starting point for service sales per week for a level 1 would be anywhere between $800 and $1,200. That's typically average. And that's an assistant that is just off of your program and is going into a level 1. That seems to kind of be where we live. Have there been salons that have been higher, 1,500, 1,600? Sure, but they're very far and few in between. And there's maybe a handful that have been at 600 a week, depending on your average ticket. If you have a $40 average ticket, then it may be lower. If you have a $75 average ticket, you're looking probably at that $1,000, $1,100 mark per week. And then we have the RTS percentage. So this is always a big one because we always hear, my stylist won't sell retail. So we have a KPI built in there. The average for salons in our industry now is around 8%. I always shoot for 10 to 12%. So my level 1s and 2s had a 10% RTS, and my level 3s and 4s had a 12 to 15% RTS. That was built in their KPIs. So now they know exactly what they have to bring in retail. And then if we're looking at one, I'm trying to see which one I want to give you here. I would say, so let's talk about average ticket, because that's a big driver in the business. Average ticket, and here's a really big tip for you guys. Your average ticket should be double what the average haircut price is. And this gets skewed a little bit if you have someone who's just banging out haircuts and not doing color. But if you're in a salon that is doing all of the services, haircuts, highlights, balayage, baby lights, all those things, the average ticket should double with the haircut prices. So if you have a level 1 at doing, like, say, a $30 haircut, their average ticket should be at least 60 bucks. That's what we're going to shoot for. So that's kind of where you can then start their average ticket in the level system. If their starting average ticket is 40 bucks, then you're looking about $75, $80 for an average ticket. And I have to be honest, with the level systems, we usually run average ticket for level 1 between $65 and $75 average ticket. That seems to kind of be where it's average. So those would be my top 3.
Awesome. Well, I know that those will definitely come in handy to our listeners. And I want to, talk about your 1N agency and how congratulations, 3+ years.
Thank you.
That is awesome. So give our listeners a little bit of a background about it, how they can find you, because you're just like a wealth of knowledge. Clearly just rattled off numbers and statistics like it was nothing. And I want them to be able to get a hold of you and reach out to you and know a little bit about, your business.
Sure, absolutely. So 1N agency started right after I sold my salon, and I sold my salon because I was tired. True, straight up transparency. I planned a 2-year exit strategy for my business because the business was finally very profitable. The last 5 years of my business, I ran between a 17 and 23% profit in my business, which is very high because the average is about 8.5% right now. And that's because my mentors taught me how to do that. And that's what I do, is I teach people how to run on a 20% profit. So I sold it because it was profitable, and it was time, and I was tired, and I wanted to do what I'm doing now. I wanted to start a consulting agency where I got to travel the country, educating and inspiring artists just like you, owners and stylists, how to build their business and pay more attention to the business side of it. I don't do anything here at all. So I started this in 2017 and really just kind of started showing up on Instagram and Facebook and pumping out a lot of education and knowledge from my own experience. And of course, still learning and every day on my own to this day, we still have to continue to learn. But I'm streamlining everything now, and really, because we can't do stuff in person, which is like one of my faves. I was traveling there a ton, like almost every other week for a while. But now a lot of things are happening virtually, and my focus is for my salon owners, my commission salon owners. I'm running that synergy program, the 8-week course, really to show them the 4 pillars of how to run a successful salon business. I have a lot of free information you can find out about too. That will help you. I mean, just go on my Instagram page. It's my name. So Nina Tulio. There's so much information for my salon owners commission, and also, my suite owners, renters, and stylists. I really try to help everybody. But yeah, I mean, find me there. You can find me on Facebook. Check out my website at 1nagency.com. And 1N comes from my hair because it's 1N. And so my husband and I were trying to figure out a name for this agency. And then all of a sudden he looked at me and he said, I have it. 1N. Your hair is 1N. Your name is Nina. It just makes total sense. So that's kind of how we came up with 1N agency. And it really is just me trying to empower and inspire and encourage change, trying to change the behaviors and the habits that we have kept and held on to over time in our businesses that keep us from being our best. I do a lot of self-development and personal growth coaching too. That's kind of my thing, you know, figuring out like who we are first and working through our pain and our problems so we could show up as our absolute best. So I live on Instagram, so you could always DM me. That's where I live. And of course, just on my website, and check out some of the courses. The Synergy program actually starts next week. And it was a 2-day in-person that now has been converted to an 8-week online course. So I'm really excited about that to help my commissioned salon owners, because I know it's been really tough.
I love that. I love that. You know, right before we got on this, we were talking about California and what you're doing, how you're being a voice, and you're using your platform. So how can those of us that are listening, how can we better support California and what they're going through, and better support, you know, you for the change? Because I loved what you said. I thought it was perfect.
Oh, well, thank you. And thanks for that. I think, you know, I'm here now in LA. I'm from Pennsylvania. And it's hard to watch what's happening here because not only, so let me just tell you this little fun fact. So San Francisco and kind of up in the Bay Area, they haven't been opened since March 14th.
Wow.
And there was a county or two that actually opened one day and were shut down right away. So that is a problem because they are now out of funding. So yes, I get it. We want to be safe. And I understand where the governor is coming from in terms of, you know, having a shutdown again for the California owners and stylists. But there's got to be a backup plan because now their benefits have run out. They don't have unemployment. They're no more PPP. Like they're doing all of these things that they can no longer provide. Now I know that they're working on some things in terms of funding, but imagine not working for 22 or 23 weeks and then now losing your benefits and not being able to open. So I think in terms of support from everybody else is I know that there were a couple campaigns going around #SaveOurSalons, and it was just people posting and saying, you know, we've been open for 20 weeks, we've serviced 1,000 people, and we have no COVID cases. You know, there was a lot of that going around, and they were tagging, you know, Governor Newsom. And he's not the only one that makes decisions, but he's very accessible, and you can tag him on Instagram. And so, you know, it's been really great to see that other communities are really sharing and trying to support California because it is heartbreaking. There are salons closing here daily. There are stylists that are shutting their suites and walking away from their chairs and going into other industries daily. And so it's really, really hard to watch. And so my job and my mission and goal is to just be able to be a voice. I've reached out to him myself personally. I've been tagging him and putting links, swipe up so people can also write into him as well. And just really trying to do my part, you know? So that's pretty much it. I think that's kind of where we're at right now, unfortunately.
I love that. And as we kind of wrap up our time together, what final advice or motivation do you want to leave the owners and stylists with? Because you're just full of it. So I can't wait to hear. It's like, what's gonna be dropped?
I know. I'm trying to think, you know, I kind of lean toward this always with because it's mainly commission owners and leaders here, correct?
Yeah.
So I always think of this, you know, you are in control of the destiny and direction of your business. Sometimes though, we just need to soul search a little bit and really rediscover who we are. If we become disconnected from our why because you may be running ragged, which I get, sit with yourself a little bit and become more connected to your why, and maybe create a standard for your business, core values and ethics that are actionable. You can always start over. You know, there's nothing in your business right now that is not correctable. You have the power to be able to do that. And I think it's really believing in yourself as a leader. It's really sitting with yourself and saying, I can do this. I know that I can. Maybe I just need more focus or more direction or more action. So I think there is a little bit of, you know, we get like beat up a little bit and tired, you know, because and I get it because I live that space where it's just showing up every day and doing, and you're working in the business instead of on the business. I would highly recommend figuring out ways where you can focus more on growing the business, growing yourself, and then growing more so of your team. So, and don't, don't feel like you can't change things. It starts here first. And listen, I've worked with a lot of salon owners. I worked with a salon owner in particular 2 months ago that was like, Nina, I'm ready to close my business, crying, so upset, the whole thing. Wow. Right? I get it. I've lived there too, many times. And, you know, it's my job to kind of work her through that. And it's been 2 months now. And just because of the things that I'm having her do, but she's doing the work. Now her salon is like having the best weeks it's ever had. She had fresh start meetings with her team, brand new job descriptions, brand new handbooks, all new standards, more core values. So it started with her, and she changed her mindset. She changed her focus, and she changed her action, and her business turned around. So there is hope for you if you're sitting here and you're like, oh, I just can't. But you have to be willing to make some of the changes, right? It comes from you. You can't keep doing the same things, get the same result, right? So that's what I would say. And I am truly here for you. If you DM me, Sean knows I respond, like I'm on it. If you need help or if you have questions, of course, I'm always here. People ask me for advice every single day. So please feel free to reach out and know that I've lived in the spaces that you're living. I can guarantee it. And I'm here to really be a source of hope for you to kind of move on in your business.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today and taking some time out of your busy schedule to share some knowledge. And we'll get this on YouTube, and the podcast will be coming out, and we will put all the information of how to get in touch with you for sure with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I love chatting with you, and you know that I just love and adore you and everything that you do. So it's been really great to just kind of sit with you and chat. And thank you to everyone that has shown up today. So I hope to see you sometime soon.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye, Nina.
Bye.